non-invasive artist and business coach, and you're listening to Terry Talks, where we discuss all things taboo, uncovering art industry nonsense, grounding you in confidence and leadership to run an arts business with unwavering power and grit. Hey, what's up? It's Terry, and welcome back to another episode of Terry Talks. I have been doing so many different things, and today's episode is going to be about our friend ChatGPT and the way that artists can leverage the shit out of it. And I'm going to give you some really specific points on when, how, and why you would use AI for artists and business. But first off, I don't know how many of you went to the paper art fair. I have been dying to go for the last couple of years. One of the things, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, is that I really don't pay for art fairs for a number of reasons. One, the money goes to the people who run it, not necessarily back in the artist's pocket. And the operations team of these art fairs also takes a percentage of the profit that the artists make. So there's a lot coming back to the fair in itself. And I'd rather save my money towards buying something from the artist. So oftentimes I will see if I can get some kind of comp ticket. And I think that you all should be trying to figure that out too, because there's always either a Brooklyn magazine or sometimes the artists themselves will get some free tickets. So that's a great way to get into see as many as you can. But I was really fucking impressed. It's hard to impress me because I've gone to so many art fairs, so many openings, and I'm in there like a fucking hawk. I have my ears open, my eyes wide open. I am talking to people, I am networking, but most of all, I'm observing. A lot of you know that I go to art fairs because I want to get a feel for where the market is. So I'm always doing this type of observational research, and the only way that I can really get into the nitty-gritty of things in real time is by attending these things, right? Keeping a pulse on the industry, keeping a pulse on how artists are doing. One of the questions that I ask artists when I'm walking around and seeing these red dots is like, how are you feeling about this? How have your experience been working with the organizers of the paper art fair? So all of those things really add up to whether, as a coach, whether I would recommend a client potentially participating in one of these things. They're big investments, and I'm going to do a solo episode on why and how and what kinds of art fairs that you might want to get involved in and what it looks like when you are trying to figure out if that's the route that you want to go in. So I was really impressed. I bought one small piece of artwork that I was totally captivated by. Art fairs are, for me, is a great way for me to like really look around, then circle back to not only what's within my budget, but something that I know is going to go well with my collection, my current collection, right? What don't I have? What do I want to add to it? I have a really eclectic vibe in my apartment. Some of my friends have described it as very well lived in, and I'm trying to redecorate a little bit and maybe simplify. This is a new apartment. I've only been here for a year. With that being said, I loved the caliber of artists that were there, super professional. People were selling like hotcakes, which is a great sign for who their audience is in terms of the paper art fair and who they brought in. I saw all kinds of people that were there. They had an activation of paper making. They had like a huge paper sculpture that was, installation on the ceiling. My nephew came with me and we were trying to guess how much things cost. And he got it after a while. He was like, that's 10,000. That's 300. They had a really cool, I'm not sure if it was cool, but it was definitely a conversation starter. One artist had a clear suitcase, like a briefcase of $1 million, and then had another briefcase of another mil. So there were $2 million in total. You could see through these briefcases. And one was in the old style of money where it was like a darker green, and one was like the new dollar bills. And, he was asking like, well, which would you prefer, et cetera, et cetera. These were like the cleanest dollar bills I think I've ever seen. And so he had a little crowd around him, just like cool shit. So I highly suggest that you go next year. Another thing that I wanted to discuss is the armory.
that happened during the same week, and there are a bunch of other art fairs coming up. The other art fair, the affordable art fair, I believe is this week, September 18th, I think in a couple of days. I read in Hyperallergic, which I love. If you are not subscribed to their emails, I highly suggest getting on there, that at the Armory, for the first time, and I heard really great things about things that were being shown there and who sold, is that the emerging artists really stepped up this year. Black female artists really got great spots in terms of like their central points within the space, highlighting those people. They got lots of attention, and that's such a wonderful thing to hear because usually at these really high-end, high ticket armory shows, a lot of the same names are coming up, right? And they're in six figures potentially. They're in, five-figure investments. And, it's often hard to compete with some of those names when you might be represented by a very reputable gallery, but you don't have the resume quite yet. So it was really, really beautiful to hear and to read this article. So, with all that being said, that's my daily news. I just wanted to share my perspectives on those things because it really ties into where emerging artists are falling in the scene of things. So, let's get into today's episode. I posted something 2 days ago about making AI your fucking bitch. And I never use the word hacks, but I will use them in this case because they are hacks. We're hacking into the system essentially, and we're ripping ChatGPT for all it's worth. I'm using it as a middleman to the work that I'm already doing. I don't have an assistant. I don't have a team. I used to have an intern. When I had my other business, Handmade in Brooklyn, just trying to balance the two areas of my life. But I've been slowly getting used to it and training it to speak like me and using it when I'm hitting this wall and I'm banging my head. So I'm studying the way that copywriters describe things and how tactile and how juicy and detailed they make me feel when I'm reading emails. And obviously I'm not a copywriter, so I never really had to do that before. But in writing all my emails and all my content and really expressing using the language that I would use on an everyday basis is so important to me. So, at the end of this episode, I'm going to describe the ways that I use it. It's never the end all be all of my work, ever. I've caught grammar errors. I've caught spelling errors. I mean, it's something that will generate ideas for you to kind of sift through. But there's been times where nothing has like been hard hitting and I'm like, this is so cheesy. Like, why are they giving me let's join, creators power hour? Like, that's not the way I would ever speak if I was describing CPH in person, and that's very important to me. So let's get into it. Definitely jump to the post that I'm describing so that you can get some of the specific ways that I'm describing to you during this episode. Save the post, use it next time, and do your best to implement these things because it's going to make your life way more simple. And that's all we're looking for. We're trying to make sure that you are in the studio as much as possible without having to worry about what to post next. So the first thing that I want to talk about is auto drafting your emails. Email is I hate to use the word controversial. It is an afterthought. It sometimes feels just like another thing and why and what do I say and blah, 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 blah. Okay, we need to cut the bullshit out because that's just being resistant to something is not an excuse for not doing something. I mean, that's the reality of it, right? I didn't want to fucking go to the gym today, but I was like, okay, I need to get rid of this shit on my stomach. So auto drafting emails for these topics in particular is going to help you kind of get over the hump of that resistance, whether you're using Flowdesk, which I have a 50% off discount for, which is fucking phenomenal. Flowdesk is phenomenal. I'm a ride or die for Flowdesk because I had MailChimp, which was just horrible templates. Some of you are using your email lists and collecting emails through Squarespace and through your website, and that's great too. So follow-ups. If you need to follow up with a gallery and you want it to be as polished and professional as possible. You should write out that email really loosely in conversational tone and cut and paste that into ChatGPT and then give it some instructions on what you want it to do. Make this sound more professional. Can you make this? Can you look at my email and edit it for vague words? Or maybe it sounds, not convincing enough and you're pitching something, and maybe it'll give you ways of actually getting a stronger message across. Maybe it needs to sound more direct and it's just like too nice. So it can definitely give you some options, and then you can read what might sound as much like you as possible. And you can cut and paste that into the email, recheck it, change some things that you don't need. You can ask chat to shorten it, which I often do because I have so many fucking long-winded emails and I like to play with the lengths. The next thing you can do is launch an email sequence, which means that in Flowdesk, and I'm sure a bunch of the other ways that you write emails include this, is that you have your beginning email. Hey, welcome to my list. As soon as someone signs up, you're inviting them into your space. And you're just like, hey, this is a little bit about me. And you can find my artwork in X, Y, and Z spaces. And you can list where you can actually buy your work. So that's a great entryway to giving them multiple points of how to buy your work, right? Thank you. See you on the gram. Let's make sure to engage, blah, 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 blah. 2 days later, you can send them an automated next email with maybe a story about your work. So there's like this step 1, the welcoming. Step 2 is kind of like the warming them up, getting to know you. And then on and on and on. So maybe you can have a 3 email sequence that is all automated that goes to every single new subscriber. Okay. So that's number 1. Sorry, that's actually number 2. The next one is I'm ready to launch a new collection. Shit, how do I start these emails? What do I do? And is this going to be a pain in my ass? The answer is no. And the next thing I want to say is that everyone should be utilizing email when IG has the fucking flu and it's just not getting along with us. You want to double down on as much marketing as promotion as possible when you're launching something brand new. You want to warm people up, maybe on your socials, and then you want to hit them with, hey, this is what I've been up to. You're going to get an email on Friday with, revealing this new collection I've been working on for the last year, the last 6 months. And then you want to open up that next email that they'll get saying, boom, everything is loaded onto the website. You can find X, Y, and Z here, and then kind of go from there. But ChatGPT is going to help you write that first email. So you're going to give it a prompt that says something like, I am coming out with a new launch of paintings that are about X, Y, and Z. I'd like to start sending my audience in my email list of potential art buyers, right? So you want to be specific, art buyers who are interested in this type of artwork. And I want to send them an email launching this new collection on my website, on my Instagram shop. What are the first couple of things I would say? And can you give me the sequence? Like, can you write me 3 emails? And you're going to look through those 3 emails and you're going to kind of like vibe off of that. Okay, what can I do with this starting point? And how can I really establish an authentic voice of my own to play with? Okay. The next thing that you can use it for are fucking newsletters. If you're writing a newsletter every single month and it feels cumbersome, even though it's every 30 days, you can actually set up one template, use that one template and duplicate it every single time to save you a lot of time. And what I do with my duplicates is when I'm looking at my analytics in Flow to see who opened what, maybe one design worked better than the others. Maybe I added a bunch of pictures to one and that got a crazy percentage of open rates. I'll use that one as a jump off because I know that people are liking that format. They're actually reading that email. And I'll duplicate that a couple of times if it's about the same content. Here's some personal updates, here's some business updates, and I'm going to use that same template every time that I need to. Those are considered my newsletters, but my emails, I try to make them more journal entry-ish. That's my tone, right? I don't have, I mean, per se, a newsletter. When I think of a newsletter, I think of like a magazine or like newspaper. And that's like very old school. The next thing you can do is you can draft thank yous to the people who have purchased, and you can add that to your automation after they have purchased with their confirmation. So you always want to brush them up with more authentic, personalized tone before sending them out. And like I said, check for grammar. AI makes mistakes as well. So I always write the first email draft and then I go from there based on the feedback that it's given me. Maybe I'm on point, maybe I missed the mark completely, and my messaging is totally off. So that's one hack, number one hack. The number two hack that I recommend is repurposing like a fucking baddie. And some people aren't quite there when they're like, okay, I spent like 2 hours on this fucking reel. I don't want to repurpose this. I don't know how to repurpose this. Like, where do I go and what do I do with this like amazing piece of content? Your reel did really well. You looked at your stats. Maybe you got 2K and above, which I think is great. Okay. So you'll take this one reel, this one IG post that just hit, this one email, this one blog post, and you can actually put that, cut and paste that, or put the link to that particular post into chat, and you can ask chat to repurpose one of your top performing pieces of content into a reel, an email, an IG post. You want to multiply your reach without multiplying your work. Think about that. That has literally saved me hours. And what I'm doing is I'm repeating the same message and I'm strengthening it every time because you want to have as much variation in your content. People are going to miss your content at some point or another. Not everybody is on Instagram all day, every day, catching your stuff. I mean, it's inundated with lots of bullshit. It's inundated with lots of really great shit. So the average person is probably not on Instagram. Well, maybe they are as much as I am. The third hack I want to talk about is artwork descriptions and artwork title suggestions. And when I thought about this, I remember it being such a fucking annoying afterthought. I'd spend months on this piece of work or a year on this beautiful, in-depth body of work. And I could name the collection. I could name this series. I had like an overarching big idea, but I was paying attention to the process. I was paying attention to like what materials I wanted to use to express this thought, this visual language. I'm a mixed media artist, so that was my intuition went there. When it came down to titling them for a particular show, whether it was my solo show or whether it was a group show and they had you fill out this, the title, the size, and all the details and the specs, I think I put untitled 4,000 times. And if you're listening and you're like, yes, fuck yes, I know. I just leaned on Untitled 1, Untitled 2, and then eventually I got a little bit more creative, but it was still a very annoying pain in my sides. Here we go with chat. A gallery wants all your info. They want it quickly, and you're drawing a blank because the title is an afterthought, like I mentioned. You want to brainstorm with AI, your big baddie. You want to dive deeper with AI until it hits. So you're describing the painting, you're describing the big ideas that you're working with, you're giving it this like info. You don't even have to go that deep into it. You can just keep talking to it as it brings you something with a tone and a liking that aligns with what you're working with. You can ask them for, give me 5 options for titles that are aligned with this body of work about, I'll tell you mine. I worked with the topic of how my mental health was impacted by my interpersonal relationships, mainly in my love life. And that's something that I made art about for probably like 2 or 3 years in different capacities. So I would then write that down. And if I had a title for the whole collection, I would give that to it. And I would go from there. It'll really help you unlock the vibe you're looking for. And we're using it as a creative tool, not a creative crutch. So just being really clear on what I'm saying right now is that it's just like Canva, just like, templates that we use. It's giving us jump off points to go deeper. How will I design? How do I want to design mine? How do I want this to look? How do I want this to sound? So chat really helps you with that. My hack number 4 is quick research to give you more ideas, to push your work forward. You've got a solid topic. You've got a new collection on the horizon. You have a solid topic for an email, a blog post, a podcast, but it just doesn't have those nitty gritty, like the skeleton, the deep rooted veins and arteries and angles. And so if you need a blog angle, a perspective, piece of data, a pitch that you want to sort of you want to extend, expand, or maybe it's a press release inspo. AI is going to highlight the strongest points for you to bank on to get engagement if you ask it to. Right? So when I ask chat to do something for me, I'm always saying, if it's for an email, what is going to get me the biggest conversion rates, click rates to my website for this purpose, right? And then it'll give me potentially like a subject line. And that leads me to my hack number 5, actually, IG captions and email subject lines. Now there are I forget what the website is, but it'll actually generate a couple of captions for you, but it'll also look at the caption you have in mind and give you a percentage of what that looks like if people are going to open it, what's the likelihood of people reading your email just based on the subject. So there are websites, but actually I would rather it give me ideas on what would be hard-hitting subject lines. I sometimes hate writing fucking captions, and I know that you're probably with me when it comes to, oh, I just posted this amazing reel. It explained my artwork and chose this like amazing song. But you've spent all of this time creating the visuals, and now you're like, oh, my caption, fuck. So you want to tell AI about the reel you just created and ask it to write you a brief, whatever the vibe is, in your authentic tone, caption to reflect the message of your reel. Put the link in there of the reel, whatever level you have for chat, and then it should give you, and I always ask it for, give me 3 options. Sometimes it asks me, do you want a shorter version? Do you want a tagline? I mean, and sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Do I want a tagline? Do I want to recreate and repurpose this caption into an email and really expand on that idea? So it's something that pushes me further in this, and that's part of why I love it. Here's a bonus hack. Now, I am not working on a body of work, but I had this thought about artists who are working in solitude, and you're not in college and you've been practicing for like 10, 20 years, but you aren't really a part of an IRL, like in-person community, right? You might not be a part of like NYC Crit Club, which is an incredible experience if you haven't looked into it. You don't get a lot of studio visits, if any, right? But we're talking about peers. So if you're not sure, let's say you're not sure whether a piece of artwork is finished or not, okay? You're looking for just like a tiny bit of feedback. You want to clarify, like, okay, am I conveying this idea? What could strengthen this? What's missing? Is the composition strong? Could it use more of X, Y, and Z? And sometimes I see polls of people saying, what color should I use? Should I darken this area? Like, you're just looking for that piece of feedback. And I think we should all be looking for feedback on a daily basis. You want to take these pieces of feedback with a grain of salt and see where it takes you. It may just prompt you to think about something that you weren't thinking about before. It may say something that you're like, fuck no, why would I ever do that? It may give you information on ways to strengthen that. Maybe you put up 4 pieces of work, you download it into AI, and you say, hey, can you look at this as a cohesive body of work? What could I do to strengthen, whether it's this message or the synchronicity of, did I say that right? The synchronization? That sounds better. Of this body of work. Because when you're presenting things to high level professionals in the gallery world, you want to show up as fucking bad as you can, because you're going to be at the top of mind when you have all the pieces connecting seamlessly. And they're like, oh, here's the vision. You've just provided them with the vision. You're like, you don't even need to think about it. You don't need to dream it up. I've just provided you with the answers to what's supposed to be in your gallery. And that's the type of memory you want to create when you meet someone, right? They're going to be at home and they're going to be thinking about the next show to host, or they want to put together a group show and they're not doing open calls, which a lot of galleries aren't doing that these days. They're basing them off of the connections and off of if they fell in love with the work and it belongs in that space and it says something to the gallery that they're trying to create. Okay. I hope you found some peace in understanding how this can really track, really strengthen, extend your knowledge, ask you questions, ask yourself questions. Here are some ways that I use it, just to kind of quickly give you some like really, really tangible ways. I recently just used it to audit one website page. I've been wanting to redo the Creators Power Hour page because I feel like it's not quite giving the hard-hitting message that I want it to give so that I can help artists understand why they should be joining every single month. I use it as a thought partner. What are some podcast episodes that I could potentially riff off of? And what kind of questions can I answer in these episodes that are going to really impact my audience? Like I said before, I use it to refine my long-winded emails. I mean, listen, if I have something to say, I'm just going to fucking say it. I'm going to write it. I like to do the work on my own. Even if I had a virtual assistant, I would still want to do a lot of the work on my own. I ask it for feedback on my messaging. How clear am I on what I want or what I'm offering or what I want to say to the artists in this community? And am I speaking to emerging artists? Am I speaking to, long professionals? Is my intent clear? It's like I said in the very beginning of this episode, it's never the end all of my work, but it is a highly creative tool, just like a thought partner in person where I'm brainstorming, and maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's a coach, maybe, and I have those meetings all the time. I meet with friends who are in the industry and I'm like, we got to do this once a month. It's just so cleansing. So I'm hoping that your takeaway is truly how to let go of the resistance potentially of using AI. No one's looking for you. No one's gonna fucking police your work. I mean, listen, there's bigger fish to fry. If we're keeping it in this professional realm and we're using it to only make us better at what we do, and we're asking it to teach us and give us better tools. So with all of that being said, whether you're on YouTube watching me with my hands and talking all loud, or whether you're on Spotify, thank you so much for listening. If you got to this point at the end, I would love your feedback. DM me. What was the biggest, takeaway from this episode? I always want to hear from you guys. Also, there is going to be the return of CPH. Technically, the sign up is already open on the website. If you're looking for the date, I think it's the end of October. If you would just want to add it to your calendar now with intention of okay, I'm committing to be there every single month. And in 2026, I'm going to be changing the format a little bit of how you can join. There will be some sort of an annual one-time payment that's going to save you a shit ton of money, and it's going to guarantee you a spot in every single CPH office hours. So stay tuned for all of the good things to come, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to another unfiltered episode of Terry Talks. I've also got some free resources on my website that'll help make your life a lot easier as an artist in business. You can also check out my services or apply to work together. Before you go, don't forget to hit this